The entire casino floor went silent the moment Luca Moretti heard Isabella Cruz's last name, because nobody had spoken that family name inside his empire for almost 15 years. Chicago stopped feeling like home to Isabella Cruz a long time ago. The city only felt cold now. Cold train stations before sunrise. Cold apartment walls stained with age and water damage. Cold grocery store receipts reminding her every week that surviving had become more expensive than living. At 24 years old, Isabella carried exhaustion the way wealthy women carry jewelry. Quietly, constantly. Her small apartment above a broken laundromat barely survived Chicago winters, yet she still treated it carefully because it was the only thing she truly owned. 2 overdue electricity notices rested unopened beside the kitchen sink, while medical bills connected to her late mother remained stacked near the window. Debt followed Isabella everywhere now. Debt, and the family name nobody wanted connected to them anymore. Cruz. 15 years earlier, that last name carried dangerous weight across Chicago's criminal underworld. People whispered it carefully inside bars, courtrooms, police stations, and political offices before suddenly pretending they heard nothing. Then one night, the Cruz family disappeared from public life completely. Most people assumed they died. Others believed they betrayed the wrong men. Nobody knew the full truth. Not even Isabella. Her father vanished when she was 9 years old. No goodbye. No explanation. Only bloodstains inside their old apartment and frightened police officers refusing to answer questions afterward. Since then, Isabella learned something painful about survival. Poor people inherited fear much easier than money. That fear followed her into the Belladonna Casino every night. The underground casino rested beneath one of Chicago's most luxurious hotels near the financial district, hidden behind marble elevators and private security checkpoints inaccessible to ordinary tourists. Wealthy politicians, corporate executives, foreign investors, and organized crime figures filled the casino nightly beneath gold chandeliers and velvet lighting. Everything inside Belladonna looked beautiful from a distance. That was intentional. Luxury distracted people from violence. The casino smelled like expensive whiskey, perfume, and hidden corruption. Massive crystal lights reflected across polished black floors, while women in designer dresses circled poker tables beside armed security teams pretending not to exist. Nobody raised their voice inside Belladonna. Powerful people rarely needed to. Isabella worked there quietly as a cocktail waitress 6 nights every week. Invisible, that was the goal. Invisible employees survived longest inside places like Belladonna. She carried silver trays between gambling tables while avoiding eye contact with wealthy men who viewed women like temporary decoration. Most customers ignored her entirely unless demanding another drink or making cruel assumptions about her background. The hidden racism inside elite environments always sounded polished instead of aggressive. Some guests mocked her accent, subtly even though she spoke perfect English. Others assumed she came from immigrant neighborhoods controlled by gangs simply because of her last name and appearance. One senator's wife once referred to Isabella as casino scenery during a charity event without realizing she stood nearby. After enough humiliation, people stopped feeling angry. They simply became emotionally tired. Belladonna staff understood another important rule too. Never attract Luca Moretti's attention. The casino belonged to him, which meant the city feared him. Even employees who never saw Luca directly still lowered their voices whenever discussing him privately. Stories surrounding the Moretti empire spread through Chicago like urban legends whispered carefully after midnight. Judges disappeared after ruling against him. Rival gang leaders vanished from security footage permanently. Entire businesses collapsed financially after refusing Moretti partnerships. Nobody knew how much of the stories were true. That uncertainty made Luca even more terrifying. Isabella saw him only twice during her first 6 months at Belladonna. The first time happened near the high-limit poker lounge when security teams cleared entire corridors seconds before he entered. The atmosphere changed instantly around him. Conversations stopped. Gamblers straightened nervously. Even wealthy politicians looked uncomfortable beneath his attention. Luca Moretti carried power the way storms carried lightning. Naturally, effortlessly, tall and sharply dressed, Luca moved through the casino with unsettling calmness, while armed men followed several steps behind him silently. He rarely smiled, rarely acknowledged anyone directly, but everyone watched him anyway. Fear demanded attention automatically. The second time Isabella saw him, blood covered the cuff of his white dress shirt, while security teams escorted a screaming businessman toward the lower casino levels. Nobody asked questions afterward, and the businessman never returned. That memory stayed with Isabella constantly, which was why she spent every shift trying desperately not to be noticed. Unfortunately, survival inside dangerous worlds often failed the moment people relaxed. The disaster began during a crowded Saturday evening, filled with wealthy investors attending a private political fundraiser inside Belladonna's upper lounge. Rain hammered Chicago outside, while jazz music drifted softly through the casino floor. Security remained tighter than usual due to visiting senators and foreign businessmen connected secretly to Moretti financial operations. Isabella moved carefully between blackjack tables balancing expensive champagne glasses, while trying to ignore the tension hanging invisibly through the room. Then a drunk customer grabbed her wrist. The man wore a designer suit worth more than Isabella's yearly rent. Gold rings covered his fingers while expensive liquor stained his breath. He demanded another drink rudely before mocking her name tag, aloud for nearby guests to hear. "Cruz," he laughed carelessly. "Chicago keeps importing the same problems." Several wealthy men nearby chuckled quietly. The humiliation felt familiar enough not to surprise Isabella anymore. But before she could pull away, another voice interrupted the moment completely. Cold, controlled, dangerous. Luca Moretti stood only several feet away, watching the interaction silently. The atmosphere changed instantly. Fear spread across the casino floor faster than music. The drunken businessman released Isabella immediately, while casino staff froze behind nearby tables. Nobody understood why Luca looked suddenly interested in an ordinary waitress. Then Luca repeated her last name calmly. Cruz. For one suspended second, genuine emotion crossed his face unexpectedly. Shock. The reaction disturbed everyone watching, because powerful men like Luca Moretti did not react emotionally in public, especially not over names. The businessman attempted apologizing nervously before security removed him from the casino, without explanation moments later. Silence followed afterward while hundreds of wealthy guests pretended not to stare openly. But Isabella felt every eye around her. Fear settled heavily inside her chest, because Luca Moretti continued watching her carefully, like someone recognizing a ghost. Without another word, Luca walked away toward the restricted upper offices, while tension lingered throughout the casino floor long afterward. The emotional aftermath felt immediate. Employees who once ignored Isabella now avoided standing near her entirely. Security guards whispered nervously whenever she passed through staff corridors. Even management treated her differently, not respectfully, cautiously, as though her existence suddenly became dangerous. That same night, Isabella overheard two bartenders discussing old rumors connected to the Cruz family disappearance years earlier. According to underground stories, Isabella's father once worked closely beside the Moretti organization before betraying powerful people connected to organized crime and political corruption. Some believed he stole money. Others claimed he disappeared after witnessing something he should never have seen. One rumor sounded worse than the others. People whispered that Luca Moretti's younger brother died because of the Cruz family. Isabella refused believing any of it completely. Her father was flawed, unstable sometimes, but not evil. Still, uncertainty poisoned her thoughts afterward, because she realized something terrifying. She never truly knew who her father was before he vanished. Meanwhile, inside Belladonna's restricted upper offices, Luca Moretti sat silently overlooking the casino floor through reinforced glass windows, while old memories resurfaced violently after 15 years buried beneath blood and power. The name Cruz haunted him for reasons nobody else inside the empire fully understood. Miguel Cruz once saved Luca's life, then destroyed it. That contradiction followed Luca through every empire he built afterward. Security investigators delivered Isabella's employment records before midnight, while Luca reviewed every detail personally. Her age matched perfectly. Her birthplace matched too. And the photograph hidden inside older case files confirmed what Luca feared immediately. Isabella Cruz was Miguel Cruz's daughter. The same little girl hidden during the Empire's darkest betrayal years earlier. That realization unsettled Luca more than violence ever could. Because if Isabella appeared inside Belladonna accidentally, then someone else might already know she existed too. Outside the office windows, the casino continued glittering beneath false luxury, while politicians gambled beside criminals and wealthy men purchased temporary illusions of control. But Luca no longer paid attention to the tables below. Instead, he stared silently at the old photograph investigators recovered from forgotten files. Miguel Cruz standing beside a much younger Luca Moretti years before betrayal destroyed both families forever. Then another discovery arrived moments later. A private investigator quietly informed Luca that recent financial activity suggested something impossible. Miguel Cruz may still be alive after disappearing 15 years earlier. Every employee inside Luca Moretti's casino eventually learned that the real danger was hidden beneath the gambling tables, not above them. After Luca Moretti discovered Isabella Cruz's identity, Belladonna Casino no longer felt like a workplace. It became a cage disguised as luxury. The change happened quietly at first. 2 additional security guards appeared near her workstations every night. Her employee access card suddenly unlocked private elevators previously restricted to management personnel. Staff supervisors stopped criticizing her mistakes entirely, which frightened Isabella more than punishment ever could. Inside dangerous environments, protection and surveillance usually looked identical. Nobody explained why Luca ordered the changes personally. Nobody needed to. Fear translated power clearly enough. 3 days after the incident on the casino floor, Isabella received notice that her apartment lease had been terminated unexpectedly after structural concerns forced evacuation of the building. She knew immediately it was not coincidence. Within hours, Belladonna management informed her temporary accommodations had been arranged inside the casino's private residential tower, reserved for executive staff and high-level associates. Refusing was never truly an option. That realization followed Isabella silently into the upper penthouse levels overlooking downtown Chicago. The residence looked beautiful in ways that felt emotionally unsettling. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the glowing city skyline, while marble floors reflected soft golden lighting across modern furniture, worth more than anything Isabella ever owned. Private chefs prepared meals she barely touched. Security teams guarded every hallway entrance 24 hours each day. Luxury became suffocating once freedom disappeared. The penthouse resembled an expensive prison designed by someone who understood human psychology perfectly. There were no locked doors, no visible threats, no direct violence, only constant reminders that every movement inside Belladonna belonged to Luca Moretti now. That invisible control frightened Isabella more than chains would have, especially because Luca himself remained emotionally impossible to understand. Unlike other criminal men surrounding the casino empire, Luca rarely displayed anger publicly. He never shouted unnecessarily, never acted impulsively. Everything about him appeared calculated, controlled, cold. That emotional restraint made him terrifying. Violent men often revealed weakness through temper. Luca revealed nothing. Isabella began noticing how people reacted whenever he entered rooms unexpectedly. Politicians lowered their voices instantly. Security guards straightened with visible tension. Even wealthy businessmen avoided prolonged eye contact beneath his attention. Fear moved ahead of him naturally, like smoke before fire. One evening, Isabella watched from a penthouse balcony while Luca handled a dispute involving one of Belladonna's financial executives accused of stealing from casino accounts. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. Luca never raised his voice once, but afterward, the executive disappeared permanently. No police investigation followed. No missing person reports surfaced publicly. Inside Belladonna, people vanished quietly all the time. That truth settled heavily inside Isabella's thoughts during her first weeks living inside the casino tower. Employees avoided discussing disappearances openly, yet rumors spread constantly through staff corridors and service elevators. A blackjack dealer vanished after questioning financial transfers tied to foreign accounts. A bartender disappeared after secretly recording conversations involving corrupt senators. One waitress reportedly attempted leaving Belladonna with classified information years earlier before never being seen again. Nobody asked questions too loudly afterward, because Belladonna rewarded silence better than honesty. And somewhere beneath the casino's luxury existed something darker than organized crime alone. Isabella felt it constantly. The building itself seemed alive with secrets. Hidden cameras watched nearly every corridor. Security checkpoints existed behind decorative walls, invisible to ordinary guests. Private elevators moved powerful men toward lower restricted levels never mentioned officially on architectural plans. Sometimes late at night, Isabella noticed armed guards escorting politicians downstairs carrying locked silver briefcases. Other times, she overheard frightened employees discussing federal investigations before suddenly pretending nothing happened when security approached. Belladonna did not simply host criminals. It connected them. That realization grew stronger after Serena Vale entered Isabella's life. Serena managed Belladonna's elite guest relations division and represented everything Isabella secretly hated about Chicago's upper class. Beautiful, wealthy, and emotionally manipulative, Serena carried herself like someone born believing ordinary people existed beneath her, especially women like Isabella. Serena viewed her immediately as a threat, not professionally, personally, because Luca Moretti never paid attention to anyone unnecessarily, yet his interest in Isabella had destabilized the entire power structure inside Belladonna. That alone made Isabella dangerous. Serena began humiliating her subtly during private events attended by politicians and investors. Expensive dresses assigned to Isabella mysteriously disappeared before gatherings, forcing her into simpler clothing while elite women mocked her appearance quietly. Rumors spread through casino staff questioning Isabella's background, intelligence, and intentions. Some employees claimed she manipulated Luca intentionally. Others suggested she inherited criminal tendencies from her father. The hidden racism beneath elite society surfaced constantly around her now. Wealthy guests referred to Isabella as the casino girl, despite learning her name repeatedly. One businessman openly suggested women from families like hers belonged serving drinks rather than attending private executive dinners. Belladonna's upper world tolerated criminals easier than poverty. That intellectual truth stayed with Isabella painfully. Meanwhile, Luca continued watching everything silently, and somehow that disturbed her more than Serena's cruelty. Because Luca never defended Isabella openly. He simply observed, studied, calculated. Sometimes Isabella caught him watching her across crowded casino floors with an expression impossible to understand completely. Not desire, not affection, something more emotionally dangerous. Recognition, as though she reminded him of unfinished memories he could never fully bury. That psychological tension grew stronger daily. One rainy evening, Isabella accidentally entered Luca's private office while delivering financial documents requested by casino accounting supervisors. She expected armed guards or assistants inside. Instead, she found Luca alone overlooking Chicago through massive glass windows while classical music played softly through the dark office. For several quiet moments, neither spoke. Then Isabella noticed blood staining Luca's knuckles. Fresh blood. The detail unsettled her instantly. Yet what disturbed her more was the exhaustion hidden beneath his controlled expression. For the first time since entering Belladonna, Luca looked less like a criminal king and more like someone emotionally trapped inside permanent war. Power carried loneliness most people never noticed. That realization humanized him unexpectedly, and Isabella hated herself slightly for recognizing it. Luca finally dismissed her calmly without explanation, but the emotional atmosphere lingering inside the office stayed with Isabella afterward. Because despite his brutality, something about Luca felt broken rather than purely evil. That contradiction became dangerous emotionally. Meanwhile, rival organizations began questioning Isabella's sudden importance inside Belladonna aggressively. Unknown men started appearing around the casino, watching her too carefully. Security increased around the penthouse tower after several attempted data breaches targeted employee records connected to Isabella specifically. Someone outside Belladonna wanted information about her, and Luca clearly understood the threat already. Paranoia spread rapidly through the casino staff afterward. Employees avoided elevators with Isabella now. Dealers stopped speaking when she approached break rooms. Some workers looked at her with pity, while others looked genuinely afraid. The crew's name carried poison through Belladonna's history. Only Isabella still did not understand why. That uncertainty slowly became unbearable. So she started investigating the casino herself. Late one night after finishing a private event upstairs, Isabella noticed armed guards escorting several politicians toward restricted service elevators connected to Belladonna's lower underground levels. Curiosity overpowered caution. She followed carefully from a distance before slipping unnoticed through partially secured maintenance corridors beneath the casino. The atmosphere changed immediately underground. Luxury disappeared. The lower levels felt colder. Industrial, real. Concrete walls replaced marble elegance, while surveillance cameras tracked every movement aggressively. Distant machinery echoed through hidden hallways alongside muffled voices, speaking behind reinforced steel doors. Belladonna's true purpose existed down there, not gambling. Something far larger. Isabella moved carefully through dim corridors until discovering a restricted archive room partially unlocked near the lower vault systems. Inside, shelves contained old financial records, surveillance photographs, and hidden files connected to Moretti operations dating back decades. Then she found the photographs. Her hands trembled instantly. Dozens of old pictures covered one investigation board hidden behind locked cabinets. Images of her father, Miguel Cruz, standing beside younger members of the Moretti organization years earlier. And beside him in nearly every photograph stood another man Isabella recognized immediately from old newspaper articles connected to organized crime murders. Matteo Moretti, Luca's younger brother, the same brother rumored dead after betrayal, destroyed the empire 15 years earlier. But one photograph changed everything. Miguel Cruz and Matteo Moretti stood together smiling outside Belladonna casino construction sites long before the violence began. They did not look like enemies. They looked like family. Then Isabella noticed another horrifying detail attached beneath the photographs. Both men disappeared the exact same week 15 years earlier. Isabella thought Luca Moretti was a monster until she discovered the real evil had controlled the empire long before either of them were born. The photographs changed everything. For several minutes inside Belladonna's underground archive room, Isabella stood frozen beneath flickering fluorescent lights, while old memories she never lived through suddenly began reshaping her entire understanding of the past. Miguel Cruz and Matteo Moretti did not look like enemies in the photographs. They looked loyal to each other, trusted, connected. That truth disturbed Isabella more than discovering criminal records ever could. Because if her father truly betrayed the Moretti Empire years earlier, why did the evidence hidden underground resemble friendship instead of war? Fear settled heavily inside her chest afterward. Not fear of Luca, fear of truth itself. Some secrets destroyed lives the moment people understood them completely. A sudden noise outside the archive room snapped Isabella back into reality. Footsteps echoed through nearby corridors while distant security radios crackled somewhere deeper underground. She quickly returned the photographs before slipping silently back toward the employee elevators. But from that moment forward, Belladonna no longer looked like a casino to her. It looked like a graveyard built over hidden lies. And somewhere beneath the empire, powerful people were still protecting those lies violently. The next morning, Luca Moretti summoned Isabella privately to his office overlooking the casino floor. The request alone terrified the staff. Employees avoided eye contact while escorting her upstairs through restricted elevators monitored by armed guards. Even Serena Vale looked visibly unsettled watching Isabella disappear behind private security checkpoints, usually reserved for political leaders and cartel executives. Rumors spread instantly across Belladonna. Some believed Isabella would disappear permanently. Others believed Luca planned revealing her father's betrayal personally. Inside the executive office, silence waited for her. Luca stood near the massive windows overlooking Chicago's financial district, while heavy rain covered the skyline beyond the glass. The city looked cold beneath storm clouds, sharp, unforgiving, like the man standing beside the window. Several thick files rested across Luca's desk alongside photographs Isabella immediately recognized from the underground archives. He knew she had been downstairs. That realization tightened panic through her chest instantly. But Luca never raised his voice, never threatened her directly. That made the atmosphere even worse. Controlled men created fear differently, quietly, Luca calmly explained that Belladonna operated under increasing pressure from federal agencies, rival organizations, and political enemies searching constantly for weaknesses inside the empire. And Isabella had suddenly become one of those weaknesses, not because of anything she personally did, because of her father. Miguel Cruz's disappearance still haunted people powerful enough to destroy entire cities financially if old secrets resurfaced publicly. Isabella listened carefully while studying Luca's expression. For the first time, exhaustion appeared beneath his cold control clearly enough for her to notice. 15 years earlier, Luca lost his younger brother Matteo during what newspapers described publicly as a gang-related assassination tied to internal mafia betrayal. But the truth sounded darker. Matteo Moretti vanished alongside Miguel Cruz after discovering corruption connected to trafficking operations hidden beneath Belladonna's early financial systems. They were investigating powerful men together. Then both disappeared permanently. Luca spent years believing Miguel betrayed his brother, until evidence slowly suggested something far worse. Someone else orchestrated everything. That revelation shifted Isabella's emotions unexpectedly, because beneath Luca's reputation existed grief powerful enough to poison an entire empire. Revenge had built Belladonna. Loss kept it alive. Before Isabella could ask questions, another man entered the office unexpectedly. Tall, sharp-eyed, emotionally unreadable. Damian Reed introduced himself as a federal financial investigator assigned to corruption cases involving organized crime and political laundering operations throughout Chicago. But Isabella immediately sensed something dangerous about him. Damian carried himself less like law enforcement and more like someone comfortable moving between criminal worlds and legal systems equally. His smile never reached his eyes. And Luca clearly did not trust him. Tension thickened instantly between both men. Damian reviewed financial records calmly, while subtly studying Isabella. Throughout the meeting, he already knew who she was before entering the office. That realization disturbed her deeply, because it meant federal agencies were watching her now too. The walls around Belladonna were closing from every direction. After Damian left, Isabella noticed Luca staring silently at old photographs again. For one brief moment, the powerful mafia boss looked emotionally lost instead of dangerous. That vulnerability unsettled her unexpectedly. People became easier to hate when they appeared heartless. Luca did not completely. Meanwhile, Belladonna's hidden operations grew increasingly impossible for Isabella to ignore. Over the following weeks, she uncovered evidence suggesting the casino functioned as far more than a gambling empire. Hidden financial records tied senators, judges, and international businessmen to offshore transactions connected secretly to trafficking routes stretching across several states. Private guest ledgers revealed encrypted payments exchanged during political fundraisers held inside Belladonna's underground conference rooms. Children disappeared through systems protected by wealth. Women disappeared through systems protected by silence. And powerful men called it business. The emotional horror behind the records shattered Isabella internally, because innocent victims existed beneath every luxury floor inside Belladonna. Runaway teenagers, undocumented immigrants, financially desperate families manipulated into impossible situations. The empire consumed vulnerable people, while politicians drank champagne upstairs pretending civilization still existed. That intellectual realization changed Isabella permanently. Real evil rarely looked monstrous publicly. It wore expensive suits. Meanwhile, Luca's emotional trauma slowly revealed itself through smaller moments hidden beneath his control. Some nights Isabella noticed him standing alone near the empty casino floor long after closing hours while security kept distance silently. Other times she overheard violent nightmares echoing faintly through adjacent penthouse corridors before dawn. Power never healed grief. It only disguised it. One evening, Isabella accidentally witnessed Luca visiting a private memorial room hidden behind Belladonna's executive offices. Photographs of Matteo covered the walls beside old family pictures untouched by time. Fresh flowers rested beneath a silver lighter, engraved with initials matching Luca's own. The room looked sacred, untouched, frozen emotionally 15 years in the past. Isabella quietly left before Luca noticed her, but the moment stayed inside her thoughts afterward, because grief explained many things violence could not. At the same time, rival mafia organizations secretly began preparing betrayal against the Moretti Empire. Luca's growing obsession with Isabella created visible instability throughout Belladonna's leadership structure. Several longtime financial partners questioned why an ordinary casino waitress suddenly received protection, usually reserved for family members. That uncertainty created danger, and Serena Vale used it aggressively. Serena spread rumors through elite circles claiming Isabella manipulated Luca emotionally to gain access to Empire secrets. Wealthy guests whispered that women from families like hers always destroyed powerful men eventually. The racism beneath Belladonna's upper world intensified daily. Some politicians openly refused attending events if Isabella remained nearby. Others mocked her background indirectly, while pretending sophistication excused cruelty. But Serena's manipulation served another purpose too: isolation. The more people feared Isabella, the easier she became emotionally dependent on Luca's protection. Psychological control inside Belladonna worked carefully, slowly, like poison spreading through blood. Surveillance increased across the casino afterward. Hidden cameras appeared outside Isabella's penthouse unexpectedly. Armed guards followed her movements more aggressively now, while employee conversations stopped instantly whenever she entered rooms. Paranoia infected Belladonna completely. Nobody trusted anyone anymore. And somewhere beneath the tension, violence waited patiently. It finally arrived one brutal night, when Luca publicly punished a financial advisor caught secretly transferring Belladonna records toward rival organizations. The execution happened inside the lower casino levels before selected members of the Empire intentionally. A warning. Luca remained horrifyingly calm throughout the punishment, while security teams forced employees to watch silently. Blood spread across concrete floors beneath flickering industrial lights, while nobody dared look away, including Isabella. The emotional impact shattered something inside her afterward, because despite understanding Luca's pain, she finally witnessed a brutality capable of sustaining his empire directly. Fear consumed her again. Yet strangely, sympathy survived beside it. That contradiction tormented her constantly, because the deeper Isabella investigated Belladonna's hidden corruption, the more she realized Luca might not be the true architect behind the Empire's darkness at all. He inherited a machine already poisoned long before Matteo disappeared, long before Miguel Cruz vanished, long before Isabella herself entered Belladonna. And somewhere inside that realization, emotional trust slowly began forming between them, without either fully acknowledging it, not through conversations, through silence, protective glances across crowded casino floors, quiet moments near penthouse windows overlooking Chicago storms. Shared grief neither knew how to explain properly. Then one stormy night, Isabel returned secretly to the underground archives, searching for answers about her father. This time she accessed restricted audio files hidden beneath old financial records connected to Belladonna's earliest years. Most recordings contained political meetings and laundering discussions, until she discovered one file marked only with a date from 15 years earlier, the night Miguel Cruz disappeared. Hands trembling, Isabella pressed play. Static crackled softly before several male voices emerged from the recording. One belonged unmistakably to Matteo Moretti. Another belonged to Miguel Cruz. They sounded frightened, urgent. Then a third voice interrupted them calmly from somewhere inside the room. The voice ordered both men eliminated before they exposed the trafficking network publicly. Isabella froze completely after recognizing the speaker, because the voice belonged to someone still operating inside Luca Moretti's empire today. The moment rival mafia leaders realized Luca would protect Isabella at any cost, they quietly signed her death warrant. The recording destroyed Isabella's ability to sleep peacefully. For 3 straight nights, she replayed the hidden audio inside her mind while Belladonna Casino glittered above corruption buried beneath its foundations. Someone inside Luca Moretti's empire ordered both Matteo Moretti and Miguel Cruz eliminated 15 years earlier, and that person still held power. The realization changed everything. It meant Luca spent years hunting ghosts while the real enemy stood beside him the entire time. But Isabella feared something else even more. If the wrong people discovered she heard the recording, she would disappear exactly the same way her father had. That paranoia followed her everywhere now. Inside elevators, through casino corridors, across crowded ballroom gatherings where politicians smiled beside criminals pretending civilization still existed. Belladonna no longer resembled luxury to Isabella. It resembled a beautifully decorated execution chamber. And somehow, she had become the center of it. The shift inside the empire happened gradually at first. Then, all at once, Luca Moretti stopped treating Isabella like an employee entirely. Security doubled around her penthouse floor. Armed guards followed her movements throughout the casino openly now, while surveillance teams monitored every entrance connected to Belladonna's executive tower. Nobody explained the changes publicly, but everyone understood what they meant. Isabella Cruz had become important to Luca Moretti personally. That alone made her dangerous. Inside organized crime, emotional attachment created weakness faster than bullets ever could, and rival families noticed immediately. Whispers spread through Chicago's criminal circles within days. Powerful men who once respected Luca's cold discipline began quietly questioning his judgment behind private meetings and luxury dinners. A waitress had disrupted the balance of an empire. That humiliation enraged people accustomed to controlling cities through fear, especially because Isabella represented everything elite Mafia families secretly hated. She came from poverty, from scandal, from a bloodline associated with betrayal and disappearance. To wealthy criminal dynasties obsessed with image and legacy, Isabella looked like contamination spreading through Luca's empire. The racism hidden beneath organized power surfaced openly now. Some rival leaders referred to her as the casino stray during private gatherings. Others mocked her background while questioning whether Luca had become emotionally unstable after years of isolation. One New York crime boss reportedly called her proof that weak blood destroys strong empires. Belladonna's upper world tolerated murder easier than lower-class women gaining influence. That intellectual truth followed Isabella constantly. And Serena Vale made everything worse. Serena understood exactly how to weaponize elite cruelty through carefully planted rumors. She manipulated social circles across Chicago until Isabella became the subject of endless humiliation disguised as gossip. Wealthy wives attending casino events whispered that Isabella slept her way into Luca's protection. Politicians joked quietly about her father's disappearance during private card games. Even some casino employees started believing Isabella brought danger into Belladonna intentionally. Isolation consumed her slowly afterward. The penthouse tower grew quieter around her each day while fear spread through the staff. Housekeepers rushed through rooms nervously before avoiding eye contact entirely. Security guards spoke in whispers whenever Isabella passed nearby. Nobody wanted connection to someone marked by the empire, because deep down, everyone sensed violence approaching, and Belladonna had always punished weakness brutally. One evening, Isabella attended a private charity gala hosted inside Belladonna's grand ballroom for several senators and corporate executives connected secretly to Moretti financial operations. The ballroom looked breathtaking beneath golden chandeliers, and orchestral music drifting through polished marble halls. But beauty inside Belladonna always concealed right underneath. Isabella noticed it immediately. The wealthy women surrounding her smiled politely while delivering insults carefully disguised as sophistication. One socialite questioned whether Isabella understood proper dining etiquette loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. Another woman asked if her family worked in housekeeping before the scandals. The humiliation burned quietly. But years of poverty taught Isabella something important. Rich people preferred emotional cruelty because it left no visible bruises. Across the ballroom, Luca observed everything silently. His expression never changed publicly, yet the atmosphere around him darkened noticeably. Several politicians excused themselves from nearby conversations instinctively. Fear moved through Belladonna, like whenever Luca lost emotional control. And lately, Isabella caused that instability constantly. Later that same night, one of Serena's manipulated rumors reached national gossip media through anonymous leaks connecting Isabella to criminal investigations tied to the Moretti empire. Photographers suddenly waited outside Belladonna's entrances. News channels questioned whether Luca Moretti protected a known criminal associate connected to organized corruption. Federal agencies increased surveillance almost immediately afterward. The walls surrounding the empire began closing tighter. And somewhere behind the pressure, rival organizations prepared for war quietly. Luca responded the only way powerful men like him understood, through force. The first assassination attempt happened 3 days later. A delivery truck exploded near Isabella's vehicle route, while casino security escorted her toward a downtown charity event. Flames swallowed half the street instantly, while armed guards dragged Isabella from the convoy seconds before gunfire erupted across nearby rooftops. Chicago police called it gang violence publicly. Inside Belladonna, everyone understood the message clearly. Someone wanted Isabella dead. Luca's reaction terrified the empire. For the first time in years, he abandoned restraint completely. Several known associates connected to rival families disappeared within 48 hours following the attack. Entire gambling operations tied to enemy organizations burned overnight, while Belladonna security teams raided businesses across Chicago's South District, searching for information. Bodies started appearing again, and fear returned to the city rapidly. Casino staff watched Luca differently afterward, not respectfully, cautiously, because grief and rage had transformed him into something unpredictable that frightened powerful people more than violence itself. Meanwhile, federal investigator Damian Reed increased pressure against Belladonna publicly while secretly manipulating both sides behind the scenes. He attended political hearings discussing organized crime corruption during daytime before appearing privately inside Belladonna's restricted offices after midnight. Nobody trusted him completely. Not even Luca. But Damien possessed information dangerous enough to destabilize every criminal organization in Chicago simultaneously. And somehow, he remained untouchable. That alone made Isabella suspicious. As pressure intensified around the empire, hidden betrayal spread through Luca's inner circle quietly. Financial records disappeared unexpectedly. Security routes leaked toward rival organizations. Federal raids narrowly missed critical evidence repeatedly, suggesting someone inside Belladonna continued feeding information externally. Paranoia infected the organization completely. Nobody knew who to trust anymore. Not security teams, not political allies, not even longtime family associates. The psychological tension consumed everyone surrounding Luca's empire, and at the center of it all stood Isabella. Some nights she blamed herself for everything collapsing around Belladonna. If Luca never learned her last name, none of this would be happening. People would still be alive. The city would still feel stable. Instead, her existence reopened wounds buried 15 years beneath blood and lies. That guilt emotionally exhausted her. One stormy evening, after another federal investigation dominated national headlines, Isabella finally broke down privately inside the penthouse tower. The pressure became unbearable. Fear followed every breath now. Sleep disappeared completely. Even mirrors unsettled her because she barely recognized a frightened woman staring back anymore. For several quiet minutes, she stood near the penthouse windows overlooking rain-covered Chicago while tears blurred the glowing skyline outside. Then Luca entered silently. Neither spoke immediately. The city thundered beneath storm clouds while distant lightning illuminated the room softly around them. For once, Luca looked emotionally tired too. Not dangerous, just exhausted. Without words, he placed a heavy wool coat around Isabella's shoulders after noticing her trembling near the windows. The gesture felt strangely intimate because it carried no manipulation behind it, no control, no violence, only quiet understanding between two people drowning inside the same war. That moment changed something emotionally between them. Not love, not trust completely, but recognition. They both carried ghosts powerful enough to destroy everything around them, and somehow they understood each other's loneliness without needing explanations. But peace inside Belladonna never lasted long. The following week, Luca attended a private Mafia summit hosted beneath Belladonna, involving several rival crime families furious over recent violence spreading through Chicago. Isabella remained hidden upstairs while powerful men discussed her fate downstairs like politicians debating war. The pressure against Luca became direct now. Several family leaders demanded Isabella be surrendered publicly to prevent further bloodshed. Others threatened financial retaliation against Moretti operations unless Luca distanced himself from her permanently. But Luca refused calmly. That decision sealed Belladonna's fate. War became inevitable afterward. By midnight, security teams throughout the casino tower moved with visible panic, while encrypted messages flooded communication channels warning of coordinated attacks preparing against Moretti properties nationwide. Fear spread through Belladonna faster than music. Everyone sensed destruction approaching. And somewhere inside the chaos, Isabella realized something terrifying. Luca was sacrificing his empire for her. That emotional realization shattered the last protective walls around her heart completely. Outside, thunder shook the Chicago skyline violently, while rain hammered against Belladonna's glass towers. Inside her penthouse suite, Isabella stood alone replaying the hidden recording again when sudden movement flashed outside the storm-covered windows. Then everything exploded. A sniper bullet crashed through Isabella's penthouse window during the thunderstorm. The second Luca pulled Isabella onto the casino ballroom floor. Every criminal leader in Las Vegas realized the feared Mafia boss was finally losing control. The sniper bullet shattered more than glass. It shattered the final illusion of safety inside Belladonna Casino. For several horrifying seconds after the shot exploded through Isabella's penthouse window, silence consumed everything except the violent rain outside. Marble cracked beside her feet, while security alarms screamed to the upper tower levels. Then chaos arrived all at once. Armed guards flooded the penthouse corridors. Emergency lockdown systems activated throughout the casino. Guests downstairs began panicking beneath flashing security lights, while politicians and wealthy investors rushed toward private exits guarded by nervous security teams. But Isabella barely heard any of it, because Luca Moretti stood directly in front of her. The bullet would have struck her chest if he had not pulled her away seconds earlier. That realization stayed trapped inside her thoughts long after security forces dragged both of them toward reinforced safe rooms hidden beneath Belladonna's executive floors. Someone wanted her dead badly enough to attack Luca publicly. That changed everything, especially because the assassination attempt happened only hours before one of the most dangerous gatherings Belladonna ever hosted, the Las Vegas Summit. Every major criminal organization connected to the Western gambling networks arrived in Chicago for the private event. Mafia families from New York, Las Vegas, Miami, and Los Angeles gathered beneath Belladonna's chandeliers to negotiate territory, financial operations, and political partnerships worth billions. Officially, the summit celebrated expansion deals between casino empires. Unofficially, everyone understood war was approaching, and Isabella Cruz stood directly at the center of it. The next evening, Belladonna transformed into something almost unreal. Luxury drowned casino in gold and crystal beneath towering chandeliers, while orchestras played softly across marble balconies overlooking the ballroom floor. Politicians arrived beside cartel financiers and international businessmen, protected by heavily armed private security teams. Beautiful women smiled through fear, while hidden weapons moved beneath designer suits everywhere. Nobody trusted anyone anymore. Belladonna smelled like expensive perfume and approaching death. Isabella entered the ballroom wearing a black silk dress chosen personally by Luca's security advisors. The gown looked elegant enough to silence some whispers temporarily, but not enough to erase where she came from. Elite society remembered class differences cruelly. Several wealthy women still stared at Isabella with thinly disguised disgust, while rival leaders studied her openly like a problem requiring elimination. But tonight felt different. The hatred surrounding her no longer stayed hidden. It became political, visible, dangerous. Across the ballroom, Serena Vale moved carefully between criminal leaders and government officials while spreading poison through whispered conversations. Every smile she offered concealed manipulation underneath. Serena understood something important about powerful men. Fear controlled them easier than loyalty. She quietly fueled rumors that Luca Moretti's emotional attachment to Isabella weakened Belladonna's leadership. She suggested rival organizations could exploit Isabella to destroy the Moretti empire entirely. And many leaders already believed her. Because Luca no longer behaved like the emotionally untouchable King Belladonna once feared. He watched Isabella constantly now, protected her openly. That public vulnerability destabilized the criminal underworld faster than violence ever could. Meanwhile, Damian Reed operated through the ballroom like a ghost moving between legal and illegal worlds simultaneously. Federal agents secretly answered to him. So did corrupt politicians. And somehow, several mafia leaders trusted him too. That alone made Damian more dangerous than anyone else inside Belladonna. He approached conversations calmly, while gathering information from every side preparing for conflict. Isabella noticed how frequently his attention drifted toward Luca throughout the night, like a hunter waiting patiently. The psychological warfare inside Belladonna intensified hour by hour. Security teams monitored hidden entrances aggressively, while rival guards subtly positioned themselves around the ballroom perimeter. Beneath elegant music and expensive champagne, violence waited invisibly beneath every conversation. Even the casino staff sensed it. Dealers trembled while serving guests. Bartenders whispered nervously through communication earpieces. Several employees disappeared from scheduled posts entirely after discovering security systems malfunctioning across lower casino levels. Something inside Belladonna was collapsing already, and nobody knew exactly where betrayal would emerge first. During the summit dinner, one senator publicly questioned Luca's recent emotional distractions while discussing casino expansion contracts tied to federal investigations. The insult sounded polite enough for outsiders, but everyone inside organized crime understood the attack clearly. He meant Isabella. Across the ballroom, silence spread carefully. Powerful men watched Luca closely, waiting, testing. For years, Luca Moretti ruled through emotional discipline. Rivals respected him because he never allowed personal feelings to interfere with empire decisions. Now they wanted proof that had changed, and Luca gave it to them. His response came cold and immediate. The senator lost every Belladonna contract before dessert arrived. Armed security quietly escorted several political allies from the ballroom afterward, while nervous whispers spread to the gathering instantly. Luca did not care anymore. That terrified everyone, because emotional men made unpredictable kings. For the first time since entering Belladonna, Isabella noticed fear inside Luca himself. Not fear of death, fear of loss. He hid it well beneath his controlled expression, yet she saw it during brief moments between conversations when his attention searched the ballroom looking for her instinctively. That realization changed something inside Isabella emotionally, because despite all the violence surrounding him, Luca feared losing her more than losing power. And powerful men rarely feared anything honestly. Later that night, the ballroom orchestra shifted towards slower music, while guests gathered near the massive central dance floor beneath golden lights. The atmosphere resembled Isabella's first night inside Belladonna strangely. Elegant on the surface, poised underneath. Then Luca approached her publicly. The movement alone silenced nearby conversations. Rival leaders watched carefully while security teams subtly repositioned around the ballroom edges. Serena stopped speaking mid-conversation after realizing what Luca intended, because everyone understood the symbolism immediately. The feared king of Belladonna was choosing Isabella openly before the entire criminal empire. Without speaking, Luca extended his hand toward her. The gesture carried more danger than any weapon inside the casino. For one suspended moment, Isabella considered refusing. But somewhere beneath fear and exhaustion, emotional attachment had already grown between them quietly through months of violence, grief, and survival. So she accepted. The ballroom seemed to stop breathing as Luca guided Isabella onto the dance floor. Music drifted softly around them, while hundreds of powerful people watched in stunned silence. Criminal leaders who once feared Luca for his emotional control now witnessed something impossible: human vulnerability. And it terrified them, because empires built on fear collapsed once leaders began loving anything more than power. The dance itself felt strangely intimate despite the danger surrounding them. Luca's movements remained calm and controlled, yet Isabella sensed tension beneath every breath he took. Around them, rival leaders whispered while hidden weapons shifted beneath expensive jackets. Worsted only seconds away. Yet somehow the ballroom felt quieter than ever. During the dance, Isabella noticed several armed guards disappearing unexpectedly from Belladonna's security perimeter. Communication devices crackled nervously across the room, while casino surveillance screens near the ceiling flickered repeatedly. Internal systems were failing. Someone inside Belladonna had compromised the casino intentionally. Then Isabella spotted Serena near the upper balcony, speaking privately with representatives connected to rival Vegas families. Money exchanged hands discreetly. So did access codes. The betrayal finally became obvious. At the same moment, Damian Reed quietly exited the ballroom through restricted corridors usually reserved for federal tactical teams. Everything connected suddenly. The summit was never meant to preserve peace. It was designed to destroy Luca Moretti publicly. Panic spread silently through Isabella's chest. Around the ballroom, rival organizations subtly repositioned themselves closer toward exits and weapons caches hidden beneath gaming floors. Several politicians disappeared completely from their reserve tables moments before emergency security feeds cut out across Belladonna. Darkness flickered briefly through the chandeliers overhead, then returned. The interruption lasted only seconds. But inside organized crime, seconds determined survival. Luca understood immediately. Isabella saw it in his eyes. The Empire was under attack from within. Across the ballroom, security radios erupted simultaneously with terrified voices reporting armed movements throughout Belladonna's lower levels. Casino entrances stopped responding electronically. Private elevators locked automatically. Someone had seized control of the building. Fear swept through the ballroom instantly. Powerful men reached for hidden weapons beneath tuxedos, while women backed away from the dance floor in panic. Security guards shouted conflicting orders as communication systems collapsed entirely. Then the massive steel casino doors slammed shut automatically. Every exit locked at once. And outside Belladonna's glass walls, armed men surrounded the entire building. By sunrise, the casino floors were covered in blood, and Isabella finally understood why nobody survived loving a mafia king. The moment the casino doors locked, Belladonna stopped being a luxury empire. It became a battlefield. Panic ripped through the ballroom instantly as armed men appeared across the upper balconies overlooking the casino floor. Wealthy politicians who spent years pretending sophistication suddenly shoved past terrified guests searching desperately for exits that no longer opened. The orchestra stopped playing mid-note. Crystal glasses shattered against marble. Screams replaced music. And somewhere inside the chaos, betrayal finally revealed its true face. Luca Moretti reacted faster than everyone else. Years of surviving organized violence transformed instinct into precision. Within seconds, he pulled Isabella behind an overturned gaming table, while Belladonna's private security teams opened fire toward the balcony positions above. Gunshots exploded across the ballroom violently. Golden chandeliers swung overhead as bullets tore through glass walls and marble columns. Smoke spread rapidly through the casino, while terrified guests crawled beneath tables stained with spilled champagne and blood. For the first time since entering Belladonna, Isabella witnessed the empire stripped completely of luxury. Underneath the expensive suits and political power, organized crime was still only survival through violence. And tonight, survival belonged to nobody. The coordinated attack spread through the entire casino and hotel simultaneously. Explosions erupted across lower gaming levels, while armed rival factions stormed Belladonna's underground financial offices, searching for encrypted records and hidden accounts connected to politicians across America. Someone planned this carefully. Too carefully. Security systems shut down floor by floor. Elevators stopped functioning entirely. Emergency backup generators failed within minutes after internal sabotage destroyed Belladonna's communication grid. The empire was collapsing from inside, and traitors already stood everywhere. Luca's most trusted security commander died less than 10 minutes into the attack after turning his weapon against Belladonna guards unexpectedly. 2 longtime financial advisors disappeared during the chaos, while private vault access codes leaked toward rival organizations in real time. Loyalty inside the empire shattered instantly. Fear replaced it. Across the casino floor, innocent workers became trapped inside violence they never created. Cocktail servers bled beside poker tables. Hotel housekeepers screamed while hiding inside burning stairwells. Young dealers barely older than Isabella collapsed beneath gunfire, while wealthy criminals used them as shields trying to escape. Belladonna consumed its own people mercilessly. That emotional horror stayed with Isabella more than the violence itself, because most employees were never powerful. They were ordinary people surviving beneath dangerous men, and now they were dying for sins committed by kings. The deeper the attack spread to the casino, the more terrifying Luca became. Until that night, Isabella understood his brutality intellectually. Now she witnessed it directly. Luca moved through Belladonna like controlled destruction itself. Armed attackers disappeared beneath his gunfire, while rival soldiers who cornered them inside executive corridors died before finishing sentences. There was no hesitation in him anymore. No emotional restraint. Only survival. The feared king of Belladonna finally revealed the violence required to build his empire, and it terrified Isabella despite everything she felt for him, because power like Luca's could never exist without blood. At one point during the massacre, several attackers cornered Isabella near the casino's collapsed eastern hallway after security teams became separated during an explosion downstairs. Fear froze her completely. Smoke swallowed the corridor, while emergency alarms screamed through the damaged building. Then Luca appeared through the haze. The gunfire lasted seconds. When silence returned, blood covered the marble floors around him while the attackers lay motionless beneath shattered lights. Luca himself looked almost unrecognizable now, his white dress shirt stained red, his hands trembling slightly from adrenaline and rage. For one horrifying moment, Isabella understood why cities feared men like him more than governments, because violence followed them naturally, like breathing. Yet despite the destruction surrounding him, Luca's first instinct remained protecting her. That contradiction emotionally destroyed Isabella from the inside. She feared him and trusted him simultaneously. Meanwhile, Damian Reed manipulated the war from the shadows. Federal tactical units suddenly surrounded portions of the Las Vegas Strip, while anonymous leaks exposing political corruption flooded national media channels online. Classified files connected senators, judges, casino executives, and trafficking operations directly to Belladonna's financial systems. The empire's secrets finally escaped into public view. News helicopters circled above the burning casino, while federal agencies stormed nearby properties connected to Moretti operations across Nevada and Illinois simultaneously. Damian orchestrated everything. Both sides, the Mafia attack and the federal collapse. He never intended stopping corruption. He intended inheriting control after destroying everyone else first. That realization came too late. Serena Vale revealed her betrayal completely shortly afterward. Inside Belladonna's underground surveillance center, she transferred encrypted financial records toward rival organizations while secretly coordinating escape routes for political allies abandoning the casino before federal raids fully closed the perimeter. For years, Serena survived by attaching herself to powerful men. Now she planned surviving their collapse too. But Luca discovered her betrayal personally. The confrontation happened inside the surveillance control room beneath flashing emergency lights and collapsing security systems. Isabella arrived moments afterward. Serena looked terrified for the first time since entering Belladonna, not because of the federal raids, because Luca finally stopped hiding his hatred. No shouting followed, no dramatic threats, only silence heavy enough to suffocate the room itself. Serena begged for survival eventually, blaming rival families and political pressure for forcing her decisions. She claimed Belladonna would have collapsed regardless. But Luca no longer cared about explanations. Some betrayals crossed lines impossible to repair. Security dragged Serena away through smoke-covered hallways moments later, while distant gunfire echoed beneath the casino foundations. Nobody inside Belladonna ever saw her again. Outside, the empire continued dying publicly. National news channels broadcast leaked evidence exposing decades of trafficking, money laundering, judicial corruption, and political blackmail tied directly to Belladonna's financial systems. Protesters gathered outside federal buildings while senators resigned overnight, attempting to avoid criminal investigations. The corruption reached everywhere. Judges, governors, police commissioners. Entire careers collapsed before sunrise. And hidden beneath all the destruction rested one devastating truth Isabella finally uncovered completely. Her father never betrayed Luca Moretti. Miguel Cruz tried exposing the trafficking network years earlier alongside Matteo Moretti after discovering children disappeared through Belladonna's political connections. They planned escaping with evidence. But someone inside the empire betrayed both of them before they could go public. Miguel disappeared protecting the evidence. Matteo died because of it. That revelation shattered Luca emotionally. For 15 years, he hated the wrong man, built an empire around the wrong revenge. And Isabella carried the consequences of that mistake her entire life. Inside the collapsing casino, grief finally broke through Luca's emotional walls completely, not through words, through silence, the kind created when powerful men realized violence never truly protected anything they loved. As Belladonna burned around them, emotional distance between Luca and Isabella disappeared entirely. They moved together through collapsing hallways instinctively now, while federal sirens echoed outside the casino complex. Smoke swallowed the luxury towers above them while emergency lights flickered across shattered gaming floors littered with broken glass and bodies. At one point, trapped beneath a partially collapsed stairwell during another explosion, Isabella reached for Luca's blood-covered hand without thinking, and he held on to hers tighter than survival required. That small moment felt more intimate than any confession ever could, because in the middle of destruction, both finally understood the same painful truth. Love inside violent empires always arrived too late. The final collapse began shortly before dawn. Massive explosions erupted through Belladonna's lower foundations after hidden gas lines ignited beneath the casino infrastructure. Firestorms swallowed entire gaming levels instantly, while structural beams cracked overhead. The empire was dying permanently now. Federal agents flooded surrounding streets, while helicopters circled the burning skyline. Rival leaders who survived the attack escaped through underground tunnels, abandoning their own soldiers behind. Everyone betrayed everyone eventually. That was the true rule of organized power. Luca guided Isabella toward emergency exit corridors beneath the collapsing hotel tower, while fire consumed the upper casino floors rapidly above them. But before they reached safety, another explosion tore through the hallway violently. The ceiling collapsed. Concrete and steel crashed between them. For several terrifying seconds, Isabella could not breathe beneath smoke and falling debris. Then Luca pulled her forward just before flames consumed the corridor behind them entirely. He saved her again. Even now, even while Belladonna died around them, outside the casino entrance, federal agents surrounded the property while emergency vehicles flooded the strip beneath flashing red lights. Smoke covered the skyline as the Moretti Empire collapsed live across national television. Isabella turned back toward the burning casino, desperately searching for Luca through the chaos. Then another explosion erupted deep inside Belladonna's central tower. The blast shattered windows across the entire building. Flames swallowed the upper floors instantly. And before Isabella could reach him again, Luca disappeared inside the burning casino after saving her from the explosion. Even after Luca vanished in the explosion, powerful men across America still whispered his name with fear. 3 months after Belladonna Casino burned to ground, Chicago still smelled like smoke whenever Isabella Carter closed her eyes. The city moved on publicly. News channels stopped covering the collapse after newer scandals replaced it. Politicians blamed dead executives. Federal agencies celebrated the destruction of organized crime networks tied to Belladonna's empire. Luxury hotels reopened across the Las Vegas Strip. Investors rebuilt damaged casinos. The world pretended the nightmare ended. But Isabella knew better. Empires like Luca Moretti's never truly died. They only changed shape beneath the surface. That understanding followed her into every sleepless night afterward. She rented a small apartment near the northern edge of Chicago under a different name now. The building looked ordinary enough to avoid attention. No luxury, no armed guards, no marble towers hiding corruption beneath golden lights. Just silence. Yet even silence felt dangerous after Belladonna. Isabella struggled with normal life in ways nobody around her understood. Grocery stores overwhelmed her because crowded aisles reminded her of panic during the casino attack. Fire alarms sent cold terror through her chest instantly. And every night, she dreamed about Luca disappearing inside flames while she stood powerless outside the collapsing empire. Grief exhausted her differently than fear. Fear faded eventually. Grief stayed, especially because Luca's body was never recovered from the ruins. Official reports claim the fire destroyed entire sections of Belladonna's underground infrastructure beyond recognition. Federal investigators quietly closed Luca Moretti's case weeks later despite recovering almost no physical evidence. That detail haunted Isabella constantly. Powerful men rarely vanish without purpose. Meanwhile, the criminal underworld collapsed into violent chaos after Belladonna's destruction. Without Luca controlling Chicago's gambling and political systems, rival organizations began tearing the remaining empire apart aggressively. Assassinations spread across major cities, while former Moretti allies fought over hidden financial accounts and smuggling routes worth millions. Entire criminal networks fractured overnight, and somewhere inside the chaos, people still feared Luca Moretti enough to whisper his name carefully. Some believed he survived. Others feared he might return. That uncertainty alone kept powerful men awake at night. The destruction of Belladonna also transformed Damian Reed into one of the most influential figures in America's political corruption investigations. Publicly, Damian became celebrated as a federal strategist responsible for dismantling one of the nation's most dangerous organized crime operations. Privately, Isabella understood the truth. Damian manipulated the collapse for personal power, and now he controlled secrets capable of destroying politicians, judges, and business leaders nationwide. The man who claimed to fight corruption had inherited it instead. That realization terrified Isabella more than Luca ever had, because Damian smiled while destroying lives. Luca never pretended innocence. Several weeks after Casino Fire, strange messages began appearing around Isabella unexpectedly. At first, they seemed meaningless. A newspaper delivered outside her apartment, with certain words circled in black ink, an envelope containing old Belladonna poker chips left beside her mailbox, a receipt from a closed casino restaurant dated 15 years earlier. Someone was communicating with her. Carefully, the coded messages followed patterns only connected to Belladonna's hidden financial systems and Luca's private security network, which meant one thing: someone from the old empire survived. Paranoia consumed Isabella again afterward. Every stranger on the subway felt suspicious. Every parked vehicle outside her apartment seemed threatening. Sometimes she noticed unfamiliar men watching her from across crowded intersections before disappearing into traffic moments later. Belladonna's enemies still hunted her, because Isabella carried knowledge powerful enough to destroy careers, governments, and criminal organizations simultaneously. And somewhere beneath the fear, another thought slowly grew impossible to ignore. What if Luca planned all of this? The idea sounded irrational initially. Then the clues became harder to dismiss. One coded message led Isabella toward a forgotten bank account hidden beneath shell corporations connected to Miguel Cruz. Inside rested financial records exposing decades of trafficking operations protected by federal officials and casino executives long before Belladonna existed publicly. Her father never worked for the empire willingly. He infiltrated it. Miguel Cruz spent years secretly collecting evidence against powerful men controlling trafficking networks hidden beneath gambling operations throughout Chicago and Las Vegas. Matteo Moretti discovered the truth accidentally, and together they attempted exposing everything. That revelation emotionally shattered Isabella again. Her father was never the villain people described. He died trying to save innocent people trapped inside systems built by monsters. The realization changed her understanding of Luca, too, because Luca spent 15 years believing Miguel betrayed his brother, when in reality both men died fighting the same corruption together. That tragedy poisoned everything afterward. One rainy evening, Isabella received another coded message hidden inside a package containing an old Belladonna employee badge. On the back, someone wrote only 3 words: "Truth survives underground." Beneath the message rested coordinates leading toward an abandoned church outside Chicago's industrial district. Fear returned immediately. So did curiosity. The church once belonged to immigrant families decades earlier before organized crime spread to the neighborhood and businesses disappeared. Now the building sat abandoned beside collapsing warehouses and empty train tracks forgotten by the city entirely, which made it the perfect hiding place. Isabella arrived shortly before midnight beneath freezing rain and dark skies. The cathedral looked almost dead. Broken stained-glass windows reflected distant city lights, while rusted gates groaned beneath violent wind. Parts of the roof had collapsed years earlier, leaving sections exposed to rain and moonlight. Yet someone recently visited the place. Fresh tire tracks cut through mud near the entrance. Inside, candlelight flickered faintly through the darkness. Isabella moved carefully between ruined wooden pews, while old religious statues watched silently from cracked stone walls. The atmosphere felt unsettlingly familiar, like Belladonna, beautiful ruins hiding dangerous secrets underneath. Near the altar, Isabella discovered a hidden staircase, descending beneath the cathedral toward underground vaults reinforced with steel doors and surveillance systems far too modern for an abandoned church. Someone built a bunker beneath the cathedral, and someone expected her to find it. The underground chamber contained files, weapons, emergency passports, encrypted hard drives, and millions of dollars hidden inside waterproof cases connected to shell corporations Isabella recognized from Belladonna's financial archives. A survival network, prepared long before the casino collapsed. Luca planned an escape. That realization changed everything emotionally, because it meant he never intended dying inside Belladonna. And if he survived, why stay hidden? Isabella searched the underground vault for answers desperately until she uncovered another devastating truth hidden among Miguel Cruz's classified records. Damian Reed orchestrated Matteo Moretti's death personally 15 years earlier. Not for justice, for profit. He manipulated both criminal organizations and federal agencies even then, using trafficking networks and political corruption to build influence quietly beneath public investigations. Belladonna never belonged entirely to Luca. Damian controlled pieces of it from the shadows for decades, and now he controlled the remains. The realization terrified Isabella deeply because she understood something horrifying at last. Luca was never the most dangerous man connected to Belladonna. Damian Reed was. Suddenly, footsteps echoed somewhere above the underground chamber. Slow, measured, not frightened. Isabella's heartbeat accelerated instantly. Someone entered the cathedral. Instinct screamed at her to run, yet exhaustion rooted her in place emotionally. Months of fear, grief, and paranoia finally became unbearable. She needed answers. Even dangerous ones. The footsteps descended closer through the hidden staircase, while shadows stretched across the underground vault walls beneath flickering emergency lights. Then the movement stopped. Silence swallowed the chamber completely. For one suspended moment, Isabella could hear only her own breathing. Then a familiar figure emerged slowly from the darkness. Tall, still, dressed entirely in black beneath the cathedral shadows. His face partially hidden by dim light, but unmistakable. Luca Moretti stood alive inside the abandoned cathedral. The final time Luca reached for Isabella's hand happened moments before the entire empire collapsed forever. For several seconds after Luca stepped from the cathedral's shadows, Isabella forgot how to breathe. He looked different now. Not weaker, not broken, just exhausted in ways power could never repair. The expensive suits and untouchable confidence that once defined Luca Moretti had faded beneath months of hiding and survival. A scar cut across one side of his face near the temple, disappearing beneath dark hair now longer than before. His movements remained controlled, but something colder rested behind his eyes. Not cruelty, loss. The kind created when a man watches his empire burn, while realizing he helped build the fire himself. Rainwater echoed softly through the abandoned cathedral above them, while emergency lights flickered across the underground vault. Around them rested enough evidence to destroy governments, criminal organizations, and federal careers simultaneously. And somehow, despite everything that happened, silence between them felt heavier than anger, because Isabella no longer knew whether Luca Moretti was a villain of her story or another victim trapped inside it. Luca studied her carefully from across the vault, not with suspicion, with relief. That alone unsettled her emotionally. For months she imagined this moment differently. She imagined rage, betrayal, demands for answers about Belladonna, about Miguel Cruz, about all the blood covering both their lives. Instead, she saw exhaustion inside him, and grief. The emotional hook that haunted Isabella most came suddenly then. Power had never truly protected Luca Moretti. It only isolated him long enough to destroy everyone he tried to save. That realization changed the entire story. Luca finally moved closer beneath the cathedral's shadows, while distant thunder shook the ruined building overhead. He explained everything carefully now because there was no empire left worth protecting through lies anymore. Belladonna was never built only for money. It became a shield. After Matteo Moretti and Miguel Cruz uncovered the trafficking network 15 years earlier, they planned exposing dozens of political figures secretly profiting from organized exploitation hidden beneath casino operations nationwide. But Damian Reed discovered their plan first. He orchestrated Matteo's murder and Miguel's disappearance while manipulating rival organizations into blaming each other. The chaos allowed Damian to quietly expand his own influence through federal agencies and criminal systems simultaneously. Luca spent years hunting the wrong enemies, building revenge against ghosts. By the time he uncovered the truth, Belladonna had already become part of the same corruption Matteo died trying to destroy. That guilt transformed him more than the casino fire ever could, because Luca finally understood he inherited an empire already poisoned long before he ruled it. Meanwhile, outside the cathedral, America slowly began collapsing beneath leaked Belladonna evidence spreading across national media. Federal judges resigned overnight. Governors disappeared from public view. Executives connected to trafficking and political blackmail operations face emergency investigations, while riots erupted outside government buildings, demanding arrests tied to corruption scandals. The empire's destruction no longer remained criminal. It became national. Every hidden file inside Belladonna's underground systems exposed another layer of rot buried beneath American power structures. And Damian Reed still controlled enough of those systems to survive the collapse unless someone stopped him publicly. That was why Luca remained alive, not to rebuild Belladonna, to finish destroying it. Suddenly movement echoed above the cathedral. Vehicles, doors slamming, armed footsteps. Federal agents had found the location. Luca showed no surprise, which meant he expected this. Moments later, Damian Reed himself entered the underground chamber, surrounded by tactical agents carrying automatic weapons beneath flashing red targeting lights. He looked calm, perfectly composed despite the nationwide collapse unfolding around him, because Damian still believed he would survive. Men like him always did. He congratulated Luca, almost mockingly, for surviving Belladonna, while simultaneously admitting the truth Isabella feared most. Damian orchestrated every stage of the Empire's collapse intentionally. The rival attacks, the federal raids, the political leaks, even Serena Vale's betrayal. Everything served one purpose: removing unstable criminal leadership, while allowing Damian to absorb control over surviving corruption networks afterward through federal protection systems. He never wanted justice, only ownership. And now he planned erasing the final witnesses capable of exposing him completely. The confrontation inside the cathedral felt less like war and more like judgment finally arriving after decades of buried violence. Luca no longer reacted emotionally to Damian's manipulation. That surprised Isabella most. The man once consumed entirely by revenge now looked strangely calm while facing the architect of his brother's death. Because somewhere inside Belladonna's destruction, Luca changed. Power stopped mattering. Hatred exhausted him. Only truth remained important now. Then Serena Vale appeared unexpectedly beside Damian's agents. Alive, terrified, desperate,